Hi there. Okay, so we're on our final video, and what I want to do in this video is just cover some odds and ends that we just need to think about so that you've got some options. So the first thing that I want to cover is the louver size. Now the louvers they can come in 4 different sizes. There's a small, couple of mediums, and a large. Now these mediums are kind of quite standard. Sometimes you'll see the smaller ones in the kitchens or kind of cafe style windows. This larger one you don't see as often, and really it'd take a fairly big room, maybe with larger ceilings if you're going to want to go to this louver size. But one thing to consider as well on the louver size is how much light you want to get into that room and how much privacy you need. So let me show you the 2 different choices. This one is the smaller louver size, and this one is the larger louver size. And as you can see, you'd get quite a bit more light out of this louver. So that's just something to think about on that. Now on this louver with the bigger louvers, there's 2 different type windows. There's a casement window and a sash window. Basically, one goes up and the other one goes out. Now, the one that goes out oftentimes will have a fairly large handle. So if you wanted this larger louver, just know that these louvers have got to clear that handle. So we don't want to order something where the louvers, you can't open them up or they're kind of stuck because of the handle in back. So that's kind of an important bit. Now, the other thing too is cleaning the shutters. So with the shutters, there's 2 things. To clean them, just have a microfiber wand is really good to clean them with. And I always clean them from the back because then you can just do one swipe instead of if you're here, you've kind of got to do it on both sides. It's just so much more time consuming. So again, if you've got smaller louvers, it's just more louvers to clean, which I always avoid. And with the bigger louvers, there's not as many. Also, if you have a darker color, you're going to have to clean those more. Okay. Now, so also the microfiber wand, but occasionally, maybe 3 to 6 months, depending on how much dust your house gets, just use a damp cloth. So they're really, really fantastic to clean. Now let me talk to you as well about the tilt rods. We have gone over that, and remember there's 3 different styles of tilt rod. There's the center, and then there's this side tilt rod, and this tilt rod, and then there's the one that you can't see. So it's hidden. But this tilt rod is, you'd use this more in a modern house, and you would use it more, or maybe if you had a modern house, maybe no tilt rod. But those would be kind of the 2 choices on that one. So if you had a traditional house, then you could go without a tilt rod, but probably traditional, I would keep it in the center as well. Now, while we're talking about tilt rod, I also want to tell you about getting a handle, especially if you've got kids. Because if you've got kids, then what the kids would tend to just yank on this, where that's not really, the tilt rod isn't really made to be yanked on. That's made to just put these up and down. And the handles are really, you can get different kinds of handles, but they're quite inconspicuous, but they're really, really handy for kids. Now, we talked also about breaking up the panels. If you've got a large room, or a large window, you're going to need then more than 1 panel. And if you do, there's a few things to think about on that, right? There's a few we need to think about, are we going to push all of those panels to the right? Are we going to push them all to the left? Are we going to split them down the middle? And if we're going to push them to the right or left, how big do we want those? Because they'll come out into the room and fold back, kind of concertina back. So that in that case, we're going to need to consider, for one, how much do you think you're going to be opening those? And if so, how much room, will they be able to fold back against the wall? Because we won't always have that option depending on where your window's situated. So again, we're just going to take a look at each window and make some of those decisions. But that's what we'll be thinking with which way we want the panels to go, how many panels do we want them to fold back against the wall, and do we have that option? So now, again, if you want them to fold back against the wall, make sure that we go over that before we order those, because sometimes you might automatically think, oh, all shutters will just fold back against the wall. They don't. And let me tell you how shutters come. Basically, they're going to end up like this. We'll build this frame. So they'll come in pieces. We'll build the frame. Then we put the shutter inside that frame. Now the shutter can either, at this point, then it can sit back in the window. So let's say if you've got Roman blinds that you want to have up here, you might want your shades, your shutters back in the window. So that's another thing that let's go over. If they're back in the window, then they cannot fold back against the wall. Okay, they'd have to kind of be like this and then be sticking out into the room. Now, if your windowsill if you've got a really wide windowsill, that's quite lovely to just have them folded back against that windowsill. But if not, they'll be sticking out into the room. Okay, so I don't want there to be any surprises with that. Now, let's say that another thing that we will check on is if your window is actually true or straight. Because when you stick that in there, and by the way, usually they're not. When they stick that in there, if they're not straight, then what we'll put is, let's say that this is the wall here, we'll put then a molding like that, and that will cover up any gaps. So that's something that we'll work around. So all of that might seem very complicated. And in a way it is, but those are things that we're going to help you with. So don't worry about that so much, because again, I'm bringing this up so that you can kind of think in your mind what you want, so that when it comes time to make those decisions, it's not on the spot, or you order them, maybe it was on the spot and then you order them and you think, oh, had I known about this and that and this, I would have changed things a little bit. So that's kind of why I'm doing these videos, is so that for one, so that you've got time to think about it and you can look at your different situations. Again, download that document and kind of print it off. And that way with the document, I'll go through some things of how much privacy do you want, all these little points, how much light do you need, what handles do I want? Do I want the panels to open right or left? Things like that you want to think about, so that, again, just kind of going over some of the things in the video. So I hope that helped. And the thing, again, like I said, the reason why we did the videos is we just wanted to give you some really good service. Because sometimes I think there's 3 things that people want when they're looking to buy things, and this would come into play with shutters as well. We want good service, we want a good price, and we want a good product. So sometimes everybody says, oh yeah, we give good service. Well, everybody can say that, but my whole reason for the video is to actually really give you some good service and give you some good value. And that way you kind of know up front, they're not going to run off, and because they really actually do care about me as a customer. The other thing about price is, like I mentioned earlier, which this actually kind of goes into quality as well, because I know that oftentimes you try to get quotes and you're trying to do your due diligence, but sometimes you don't know, or am I getting a quote on their least expensive range, or am I getting a quote on their more expensive range, or are they giving me the cheaper range and then going to talk me up? So it's a little bit hard to compare prices when you're doing your due diligence. And I guess if with these videos, hopefully you've gotten to know us a little bit and know that we just are trying to do an honest job by you. And at least the other thing, getting to the quality, at least with ours what quality we offer. So we may not be the cheapest price, because quite honestly, we don't want to be. With the cheapest price, we've got to offer a cheaper product, which we don't want the stress of that. We just want to, we did our own due diligence in finding the manufacturing company that is going to give us the top of the line quality so that we can pass that on to the consumer and hopefully be as competitive with that as possible. So that's another thing that you'll try to do your best in when you're comparing on figuring out maybe what the quality is with other brands. So anyway, I hope that helped. I've enjoyed making the videos, and take me up on the interior design offer. For a while, hopefully I'm still offering that, because from time to time I'm going to offer a half an hour consulting with interior design, because like I said, you are changing the interior design of your house. There's some really important things with interior design. One of them, just for instance, is focal point. And quite oftentimes, the focal point of the room is the window, which is going to have the shutters in. So I want to help you kind of put that back together, that room back together, so we're taking the biggest advantage of that. But if you've got questions even in other rooms, or how you're going to segue possibly with the shutters, or just random questions, take me up on that half an hour offer, and there'll be a button on the video where you can do that. So again, I hope that helped. All the best to you. Bye for now.